I spoke to the legendary singer P.P. Arnold yesterday, who is not only inspiring but also an absolute sweetheart. We spoke about her journey into the music scene, as well as her work with Steve Marriott, Ike and Tina Turner, and why she will never give up singing. I know that you came from a musical family. You told me before that you used to sing gospel together and used to do harmonies together and sing in your living room. I'd love to hear a bit more about that, about where you started.
Yeah, I was born into a gospel family, a family of gospel singers, and my parents are from East Texas, Tyler, Texas, and Henderson, Texas, and they moved to Los Angeles in the mid-40s to escape the whole racism, Jim Crow atmosphere of being in the South. And so when they came, the family, my grandmother first came with her sister, and they formed a church, the Full Gospel Baptist Church. And the church started in my Aunt Catherine's living room. So we used to go to my Aunt Catherine's house every Sunday morning to have service. And during those times in the Black community, a lot of Black families were like sort of migrating from the South. Some were going north and some were going west and, you know, just to get away. And so there were lots of like preachers, that traveling ministers that you could get to come in and preach wherever your service was. Mm-hmm. So we would have service at Aunt Catherine's house, and we would sing, and so everybody just sort of like sang, you know, like you just had these harmonies. Everybody opened up their mouth, and all these different harmonies would come out. Mm-hmm. And you know, my uncle Jesse, he was a deacon, and he would lead it off. It was like the African call and answer style, mm-hmm. Singing these beautiful hymns. Like one, he would say like, "I love the Lord, He heard my cry and pitied every moan." And then everybody would come in, a whole chorus of, "I love the Lord, He heard my cry." And then he would go on and pitied every moan. Yeah. So it was like that. So everybody just sang congregational singing. And so, you know, everybody in my house, in my family sang. So we used to sing all the time in church. The radio was always on in our house, and we would sing all the church songs and all the pop songs as well. We were all on Sundays after we sort of like, actually there was a church, and across the street from the church was a hamburger stand that had a jukebox. So between Sunday school and 11 o'clock service, we would be at the hamburger stand, you know, kind of singing all the Motown hits of the day until it was time to put on our robes and march into the church and sing 11 o'clock service. So yeah, I grew up singing.
What an amazing combination of music it sounds like you grew up with. I mean, wow. Yeah, really beautiful. Do you remember any of the pop songs in the jukebox you used to dance to?
Well, yeah, it was like all the Motown stuff was out, you know, My Guy and, you know, all the Temptations and Smokey Robinson and, you know, all the Motown sounds, Four Tops, you know, all
my favorite stuff, all my favorite music.
Absolutely. You know, and, you know, gospel is the root of everything. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the root of everything. The gospel, the blues, all the blues comes from the whole gospel root. So everything is gospel, really, to me. People say that about Aretha. Everything Aretha sings is gospel. And that's true because, you know, that soul, that soul music, that sound, everybody came out of the church, because that was the community. You know, our community was it was like that because of America. And and that's where, through all the migration of those times during the 40s and the 50s, and then, you know, what happened in the 60s, all the civil rights revolution, everything, when you look back on all that stuff, everything was organized from the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. What an amazing journey you've had through music already. And we haven't even got to some of the other stuff that you've done and been through. So you also went on to tour as an Ikeette with Tina and Ike. And I'm sure you had an amazing time on the road with those guys. Tell me a bit about what it was like.
Well, it was, you know, musically, it was just the bomb. You know, the Ike and Tina Turner review was like, you know, Ike Turner was a great musician and band leader, even though, you know, their domestic life was not so cool. And we all, you know, when you're on the road like that, and in those days, I had come out, I never planned on being in the music industry. You know, a day in the life changed my life. And, you know, I said a prayer, and an hour later, you know, I found myself in Ike and Tina Turner's living room singing Dancing in the Streets to help my girlfriends out, you know. And Tina goes, "Right, girls, you got the gig." And I go like, "Oh, no, not me, not me. I only came to help my friends. I'm in big trouble. I shouldn't even be here." I lied and told my husband. And, you know, everybody was so surprised because I was so young. Your husband, you know. Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 17.
17, wow.
I was 17. I had 2 kids. I sure did. And
you must have been incredibly nervous standing in Tina's living room singing to them.
Well, I was. I really was. But, you know, that's what I do. I sing. So, and my girlfriends, you know, they really needed me to help them. And we, you know, dancing in the streets, I you know, knew all the music, knew all the moves, you know. We were like we were like the personification of our youth. You know, so...
Well, of course, because the Ikeettes were obviously also dancers as well. So you must have been able to pull a few shapes, PP.
Yeah,
you must have been able to, pull a few moves.
You've seen some of those videos.
Oh, yeah, I love them. They're incredible.
You know, from that time.
Absolutely.
All the big TNT shows and all of that. I started out as an Ikeette. I was like we were like more like the teenage Ikeettes, you know, because the girls before us, they were like more grown up, more womanly and everything. And Maxine, Gloria and we were all like kind of teenagers. So this is before like all the sexy girls and all of that. We were like, you know, we wore the go-go boots and everything. We were part of that era.
I love that look.
Sort of like the whole later, you know, in the say like 1968, after 67, because I went to England. No, 67. I went to England. And 66 with Ike and Tina. So after that time, that's when they really got sexy. You know?
Yeah.
You know,
So you came to, after you did the Ikeettes, you came to the UK and started your solo career. And how did the scene differ in the UK to the US? Because I know it was very different, and a lot of American singers came over to the UK at that time for the scene over here. So yeah, I'd love to hear a bit about how it was different for you.
Well, it was totally different, you know, because, you know, everything was like, London was like the hub of the whole kind of revolution that was taking place there. So London, I know a lot of musicians came from Liverpool and Manchester and everything, but it was like a whole London scene. And for us to come to London, to come to England and realized that everybody were like big fans of the music that we did. It was just great. It was just more freedom. We were kind of locked down. That was like the time of the civil rights. The whole civil rights movement was going on, and we were like touring the South and the whole thing, we weren't allowed to like stay in, like the big chain hotels or anything. We stayed in Holiday Inns or when we got to Soulville, we stayed in, the black owned motel situations. So it was like, I come off the Chitlin circuit, as it was called, which was the circuit that all the black musicians played on. Everybody, from Ray Charles on down, everybody, because that was where that's where we could play and play our music, and even though people played in big hotels and things like that, we weren't allowed. You had to come in through the back door. Oh, you weren't allowed to. It was like serious racism. Everybody, all these things that are going on, like everybody seems really shocked by it. But I'm always surprised that people don't realize how long this has all been going on.
Of course.
It's nothing new, and it's really gone on long enough.
It's incredibly frustrating. Incredibly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. 400 years. You know what I mean? And after you built the country, first of all, you were stolen and you were taken there. And it's just really, it's just not on. And enough is really enough. So
Absolutely.
In the 60s, I was like, for me, because I was born, even though my family are from the South, my sisters, my siblings, and I, we were born in Los Angeles. So I never had a real experience of the South, personal experience. Of course, you hear your family, you hear your mother and father, and all your cousins who are coming from the South to move to LA. They all come through our house, and you hear all these stories about all the lynchings and the whole how bad life was down there, But I didn't have a personal experience until I actually became an Ikeette and traveled on the road with the Ike Tina Turner review.
Did you, when you came to the UK, did you find it a similar experience? Or
it was open, you know what I mean? It was like free. It was like a freedom for us. It was more of a multicultural society. You know what I mean? But it was still, racism existed in the UK as well. But it wasn't like racism in America and racism in the UK is two totally different racism. You know what I mean? Because in the States, it is in your face. Whereas in England, it was different, but it was still a multicultural kind of scene happening, because the West Indians had came and brought all the reggae and Prince Buster and those guys, they were here, but all that whole scene. So they had brought and contributed to that culture. So you have that whole reggae thing happening, and then you have the like all the black music happening as well. Everybody was into jazz and into blues, and all of that is like everybody. So they had such a respect for us. There was this respect that was so great. So there's no way that I would have been P.P. Arnold in America.
Wow.
Because I was a little girl. I didn't know anything really. I was just like an Ikeette. I became an Ikeette too because it was a job. It was an opportunity. When Tina encouraged me to not to go home that day and go with them and see the show, and I realized I got in trouble when I got home, and I realized that I had like said this prayer and my prayer had been answered. I suddenly had a way out. And so my way out of that was to be able to, out of that marriage, was to sing. And that's how I supported my children.
Singing saved you. There we go.
Singing is still saving me.
There we go. It's powerful. It's very powerful.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's a gift. You know, I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed. You know, I was born with it, and I love it. And God has given me a gift that I can share and make people happy.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me happy. You know, it's helped me survive my darkest hours.
I would have given you all of my heart, but there's someone who's torn it apart. And he's taken almost all that I've got. But if you wanna try to love again, baby, try to love again. But I know first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know first cut is the deepest. 'Cause when it comes to being he's cut. When it comes to loving me, he's worth. But when it comes to being loved, he's cut. That's how I know the first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know first cut is the deepest. I still want to bear my side, just to help me drop the tears that I've cried. And I'm sure gonna give you a try. And if you wanna try to love again, baby, try to love again. But I know, oh yeah, the first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know first cut is the deepest. But when it comes to being like he's cut. When it comes to loving he's worth. But when it comes to being loved, he's cut. That's how I know first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know first cut is the deepest.
I know there's been a lot of people who you've worked with and who have taken them under your wing, you under their wing. And Steve Marriott is a name that comes up a lot from Small Faces, and he was a big part of your life when you met and worked together. How did you guys cross paths?
Yeah, well, we were kids. You know, I mean, we were kids. We were teenagers. And we were both signed. We were signed to the same record label. The Small Faces joined the Immediate label around the same time that I signed to the Immediate label. So we were label mates, you know, who we had this whole concept of like we wanted Immediate to be like Motown, you know, where everybody like you know wrote and wrote songs for the singers and produced the acts on that whole thing where we all work together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it happened with the Small Faces and I. I mean, we didn't, they didn't really take me under their wing or anything like that. It's like we were both on the same scene. And Steve and I, we just like hit it off, straight away because of that that music that he was into. His grandmother had introduced him to Ray Charles at a young age. So he was like really into that music. He was into gospel music. He was into black music, so there I was like, kind of like the real deal, we got a chance to meet and collaborate. And we just like, we just sounded great together, and we just like worked well together, and we had fun together as well. We were the Small Faces and P.P. Arnold. We were like the babies on the scene. Everybody else, the Stones and everybody, they were like older than us. They were like 4 to 5 years older. And
I've seen some great videos of you online singing with the Small Faces, and you look so beautiful. There's one in a black and white video I've seen of you in a little dress, and you just look stunning on it. It's your voice is incredible as well. Yeah, it's such a great video.
I was so shy. I was really shy in those days. Because, like I had come to, just like I became an Ikeette without any kind of, destiny kind of did that. I certainly had never planned on being a solo artist. I didn't have that kind of confidence, really. I was like really coming out of a really horrible teen scene, and I was very shy, and I had, kind of survived the Ike Tina Turner scene, dealing with all the stuff that was going on there with Ike Turner, which was awful, and so like I was really traumatized. I was quite traumatized at that age, but singing is what saved me. So when we came to England, and it was so free, and we were having so much fun, and Mick Jagger and I became friends, and after the gigs, we used to all hang out and go to the discotheques, and we didn't have that kind of scene in America.
I wish I could have come back. I want to come back in time with you and go back there.
It was great, and Mick was my friend, and I think it was Ian Stewart, who was the Stones road manager. I think he was the catalyst to me, sort of like him putting suggesting to Mick and Andrew Oldham, who had the Immediate record label at the time. He's the one that, put that bee in their bonnet about, getting me to stay. And because they thought I was great, I was just singing. I was like the lead singer with the Ikeette, because one of the girls couldn't sing at all. She used to get fined. Really,
that's funny.
She just looked good. If she sang, she got fined.
Fined? No way.
Yeah, she got
oh my
fined.
gosh, that's so funny.
You've heard of that whole system? How like if you, I mean, in those days, you had to be on your game. You know what I mean? You could not be singing out of tune, or you couldn't be doing anything like that. You didn't have a gig. There were like so many great singers, out of the church. You know what I mean? Everybody's out of the church, so everybody can sing.
I can imagine in the Ikeettes, Ike being pretty hard on everyone. I imagine that's at that time as well. If anyone stepped wrong,
he was like really mad at me when we came to England, because little shy Pat was suddenly hanging out with these white boys, right?
Oh.
I'm hanging out with the Rolling Stones, you know. I've never even, you know, I'm the shy one. I'm the baby. And here I am hanging out with Mick Jagger. So I didn't like that at all. And he used to find me, but he couldn't do anything about it because I wasn't his woman. He didn't control me. And I was having so much fun. And so Mick knew that there was a lot of stuff going on. And so anyway, they asked me, they offered me the opportunity to stay in London and sign to Andrew's label. Call my mother. Call my mother and ask her if she'd keep the kids for a while, you know, to see, you know, we decided, well, I'll stay and see how it goes. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea of how it worked. I had to put all my faith in Andrew Oldham.
So much for me to do and to know and to be and to If you think you're moving, you're even moving. There's no denying. Real, but where were you? Now my dreams have changed. They're rearranged. They're still the two, but not you. So, baby, if you think you're moving, you don't even move it.
I know you've got some beautiful songs which I love, and as I said to you last time I spoke to you, I play it all the time on my show, my radio show, and in clubs. I'm still holding the PP torch for you around London and around the Europe. But is there a song that's close to you that you've sung? Is there something that's special to you? There may not be, but is there a song that sticks out to you that means a lot?
Well, there's no way that I could not say that I absolutely adore First Cut is the Deepest and Angel of the Morning. Mm-hmm. Both of those songs, what a blessing that I got the opportunity to sing those beautiful songs, you know, and I never, ever tire of singing them. And I've sang them fast, I've sang them slow.
Every variation.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know, so many, it's just the melody is just so, it depends on the musicians that I'm with, too, how I can express that song. You know, the quality of musicianship always changes how everything sounds. You know, so like, you know, like sometimes, you know, like you're doing things and everybody wants it to sound like it sounded like the record when I was like 17, you know, 19. And but if I'm with some really amazing musicians and they're gonna play it, you know, then I can like, you know, I move into a whole nother avenue. It gets more gospel, you know, it gets more like it's like the album that I did that Eric Clapton produced. Eric Clapton really sort of like he like produced me in a way that was more like my roots, you know, because he had those great guys from the Delaney and Bonnie band that were playing, all those great musicians, and you know, so that he like brought that side of me out.
Well, I'm really upset as well because it was Glastonbury this weekend just gone.
No.
And I was supposed to DJ and you were going to play and I was going to run across to the Pyramid stage and see you. How are you feeling about not being able to do these festivals this summer? Are you waiting to do them next year or?
Absolutely, I'm waiting to do them next year. There's nothing I could do about this year. You know, some things you don't have control over. You just have to let it go. But it was really a drag because, you know, last year, the New Adventures album was opening the door for 2020 for me, you know, and, you know, Steve and I, you know, the whole plan was to like release the record last year and we went out on the road and we toured and the tour was great, you know, and, you know, like I was just ready for 2020, you know, to maybe make some money.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how musicians make money nowadays is performing. We don't make money from anything else. So we have to get on the road.
I've only ever made money from performing, really, you know, because, you know, it's a drag, you know, that like, all my really big hits and everything. I was like, you know, well, everybody was ripped off in the 60s, you know, but I was really ripped off for a long, long, long time. So, and then in the 70s, when all of my peers, you know, all of my peers like moved to that next level, you know, that whole sort of 70s where, you know, superstars and all of that. Well, I was dealing with a lot of tragedy and stuff like that. So, and they were like lost years for me, the 70s. And I always say like everybody who, you know, from my peers, everybody that's like in the higher echelon of the industry is from that period, really. You know, the majority of people, I won't say everybody, but, you know, the majority of all the big everything is happened in the 70s because that's when people got paid.
Gosh.
People actually got paid in the 70s, you know.
Yeah.
And
why do you think that was in the 60s? What? Because I think it happened to pretty much everyone in the 60s, didn't it? It was the big cats taking over the musicians and making them sign contracts and taking the money. And did it really give you kind of a jaded feel about the music industry after that had happened?
Well, it did for a while, you know what I mean? But what can you do? It's like the whole thing. It's like, what do you do? do you just like continue to just cry the blues forever?
Exactly.
Or do you just try to do something about it, you know?
Absolutely.
And as far as my career, I'm an independent artist. It's only recently since, I've got Heather now, I'm really loving Heather and I think we're going to do some great things together.
Yeah.
But I've been an independent artist for the majority since the 70s, really. And I always say it's only by the grace of God, that I've managed to survive, because I'm hard-headed for a start, and I'm never going to give up.
Good. Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be able to collaborate. Collaborating is what has saved me and helped me to still be around through all these decades.
Do you love being on stage as much as you used to? Do you still have the same adrenaline and the same excitement when you're on stage? Does it still feel natural?
Performing.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
I love performing. I'm just trying to keep these bones moving. Keep these bones moving. I'm dealing with a shoulder injury at the moment from doing shoulder stands, and I just think, oh, Pat, it's just like my yoga teacher is always telling me, Patricia, be careful doing that shoulder stand, but I'm just determined to keep doing that shoulder stand because I used to be able to do it.
Yeah.
The shoulder stand and the plow, hey.
I know exactly what you mean.
Well, I just did a little shoulder stand, one shoulder stand too many recently, and I'm dealing with an injury at the moment, so... but you have to keep going. You can't babysit the injury. So I just keep doing my yoga and I like to walk and I'm hoping to be able to become a better swimmer at some stage. We can go on the beach now. So I haven't been in the sea yet. I know it's all warmed up out there, so I'll probably start going down. Oh,
because you're in Spain, aren't you? So it's going to be beautiful where you are, I'm sure.
I am right here looking at the sea right now.
Is there any advice that you've learned throughout your career in music that you could pass on? Is there anything that has helped you along the way, do you think? Any piece of advice someone's given you?
There's just so much, really. Faith has brought me a long way. So when I say keep the faith, I really mean it. Keeping the faith. I basically try to work from the inside out rather than working from the outside in. Because I know that I have to be self-care is really important. Looking after myself, keeping myself fit, keeping myself healthy, looking after yourself, always holding on to my dreams.
There'll be no strings to bind your hands, not if my love can't bind your heart. No need to take a stand, for it was I who chose to start. I see no need to take me home. I'm old enough to face the dark. Just call me angel of the morning, angel. Just touch my cheek before you leave me, baby. Just call me angel of the morning, angel. Then slowly turn away from me. Maybe the sun's light will be dim, and it won't matter anyhow. If morning we've sinned. Well, it was what I wanted now. And if we're victims of the night, I won't be blinded by the light. Just call me angel of the morning, angel. Just touch my cheek before you leave me, baby. Just call me angel of the morning, angel. Then slowly turn away. I won't beg you to stay with me. Through the tears of the day, of the years, baby, just call me angel of the morning, baby. Just touch my cheek before you leave me, my sweet baby. Just call me angel of the morning. Just touch my cheek before you leave me. Please call me
A huge thank you to the truly inspiring PP Arnold.